experience as a discipline, why I believe we should spend this week together at all, and then in more detail where it comes from, what sort of influences its modern form, and what it means to do it as a real job. Again, by way of introduction, my name's Harry. I work as a UX designer for dwyl next door. Prior to that, I was a front-end developer for startups here and there, and prior to that, for whatever version of the FAC cooperative that we had going in 2015 or whatever. And yeah, so I did the course just like you from Camden, so before we moved into this place. Got this lovely new offices. So, okay, here we go. Why am I bothering to give the talk at all? Well, we're not making good products. Damning thing to say. But yeah, it's just, it's a bugbear and it's a frustration, and it's just so crushing to see like the disappointment in a client's face when they're given something that they didn't really want, or it just doesn't quite do what they were hoping. And so we want to avoid that from happening. So it's not a question that the code isn't good, because code quality is great. Project management, we're pretty good at running projects. We hit our deadlines, we keep track of all the issues, so that gets another lovely green tick as well. Working environment, functioning lights, you can't ask for much more than that, so that gets a tick as well. Client relationships, often pretty good as well. But final product, so where does it all go wrong? Where does some of it go wrong? Right, so by way of sort of showing you, here's an example. This was a not client request because we never took it up, but this was a request that we got in a couple of years ago. Starting off, she says she's having to teach herself UI UX design to make the prototype. It's taking too long, so she wants to shortcut to development. Red flags, but it's more of a business proposal to create an app/web app. We could make our money off advertising. She already knows how to go make the money. I think my idea could be very successful. I've thought over and over in my head on how it would be in terms of functionality and design. So what she's saying is, don't worry about it. I have this great idea. All you have to do is make it, and then we're all going to be rich at the end. And as a poor developer, it's very tempting to take those projects and be like, yeah, okay, great, let's do it, and you know, I'll get paid and stuff. She already has a name that's not been registered anywhere else, and a strong brand image, even less to worry about, right? Could I get a private pitch though? Where you sign some sort of confidentiality agreement? You know, she's in a bit of catch-22. She says, in a few words, it's a social network Bitcoin faucet game. The game element is the primary function, and we'll carry it. We'll carry it. It's so, I don't know if you can see his face because it's so dark, but that's Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams. Like that. Just looks at the words and then, yeah. Because obviously Field of Dreams, the ghosts tell him, build it and they will come. And the developer is doing the same thing here. You can't see this? There it is. Dreams are not reality. That's the hard truth of it. So, thanks for the, that's not the end of the presentation. Clients present their problem solutions to developers. So this is basically where it's going wrong if you were to break down step by step. After they present, the developers then accept that solution and build it. The things that can go wrong between, basically, if you pick up a project like the one that we've just described without properly trying to break it down with the client and going through this user experience process, which we're going to try and engage with this week, it can really just upset the whole project in terms of like, it'll just feel useless at the end. It'll feel like a waste of a week or a waste of 2 weeks or whatever. Things that can go wrong though, drawn out client meetings where nobody really knows what to say, arduous scope meetings that take too long because it's like, oh, we could do this and we could do that. Oh yeah, we could do that, but what about this? Oh yeah, we could do that too. It's too fluid, it's too complex, or it contradicts itself, it loses purpose in that way. Development is frustrating, feels hollow, that's a better word, isn't it? MVP is not minimal or viable, no active users, development teams are recognized. I don't want this in my portfolio anymore. Developers stop getting involved in the design decisions because it just feels like too much of a headache, and then jaded developers think all clients are dicks because they can't come to the table with anything of use. And worst of all, developers get real jobs and they leave and they never come back. So, now if that's justification enough why we should learn about some UX, I'm going to switch over to my little presentation over here. Yeah? And, okay. I may be reading this verbatim, so if that comes across as tacky, I'm sorry. But I wrote it as a speech, so here we go. Just some great quotes to start with. Paul Rand, Dieter Rams is, he's not in software, but he's the sort of the brainchild behind the success of Braun, or Brown, I think they call themselves. You know what I mean, Braun?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
They make
coffee? At the moment they make this. It's mostly known for
razors, yeah, they've done like clocks and alarm clocks and yeah, this guy, Dieter Rams, he has some, I'll send you all a link to all this stuff, but this link in particular, he has like 10 principles for designing things, and yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. It will make you rethink sort of what it means to be like designing things and stuff. And then this guy, Gil Hernandez, works for Team Treehouse, and just one of his videos, this really resonated with me because it's true. You can sort of really think on it in a sense. It's not the sense that like users are looking for a reason to close the app. It's just that it's so much more of a complex decision than like leaving or staying or whatever. That I'm watching this terribly. We'll come back to that quite later. Don't worry. It'll explain itself. So here we go. Introduction. Web design is dead. Web design is dead. Long live experience design. User experience is the user's perception of a company across one moment of contact and all moments of contact. Did I do that in time with the cat? One moment of contact and all moments of contact. There we go. Alright? Another one. It's just a lot, right? It's a holistic thing. You've got to kind of really consider a project from every angle. You've got to try and get to all of these, what's the word? All of the exceptional use cases. Here we go. Let's clear this up first though. So the difference between UX design and UI design. The two terms, user interface and user experience, they overlap. But they are quite distinct in terms of disciplines and things that you would engage with. So for example, on my time tracking app, I consciously am aware of when I'm just doing UI, when I'm just doing UX, or when one covers the two. But to make a decent distinction, basically UI is about the best possible presentation of content, whereas UX is really about data interaction, making that interaction as pleasant as possible, but that's more of a secondary thing. We use the word data in this context because we're talking about software, but I prefer to understand it in a broader sense, where data is simply value in some tangible form. Because you can think of the UX of everything. It's now in software, but UX applies to anything that we use. A door, for example. This door has what I consider poor UX because it has a pull handle on both sides. So how do I get out? I know it's a door, I know about doors, but already I'm questioning my own sense of self. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Everything can become like a user experience if you want to see it that way. User experience design is an holistic approach to design compared to user interface design, which focuses on visual representation of data. Okay. So, why is user experience data important? Well, it's now you've got services that they have like AI web design, which is like I don't know if you've seen websites that do this, but it's like meant to machine learning learn the best way to present a portfolio or a shop or whatever. And if you look at places like Squarespace or Wix, they all look the bloody same because there's basically one, more or less, this is the best way to do it and this is how people appreciate take content in. However, we're moving, with the Internet of Things, we're moving away from it just being about web pages that we'll be dealing with. You might find that you're programming Arduinos or Nodebots or a toilet sign or whatever, Certainly from a client's perspective, it's something good to remember that though they may be coming to you for an app, that's never the end of the story, and it's really never all that they want. So Internet of Things, APIs, social media presence, SEO, customer service channels, physical locations, all of this inform experiences of their users, and all of it must be on the same page, basically. All of these touch points need to be designed, planned and managed. UX design is a job that will continue to exist regardless of the channel. As technology becomes part of the scenery, all we can see is the value transmitted by it. This quote down here, Liz Hubert, she's great if you want to follow UX people on Twitter. It's time for us to grow up because we've been part of the problem. We've helped to give birth to self-righteous web pages that assume they deserve to be watched and awarded just for the time we invested in crafting them. So awards is really like the call out there. Because you must have experienced this as well, where it's like, wow, this website is beautiful, but I don't know what they are. And actually, it's really tricky. Oh my God, there's things animating in my face. Like, design over experience there. More than ever in a world flooded with cognitive noise, the world needs simple, intelligent, integrated ecosystems of information. The sooner designers embrace this, the better prepared we'll be for the future. So, what makes a good one? She formed this quote as well. This is Liz Hubert. This because I think that I've struggled to improve on this over the times that I've given this talk, but decreasing the user's cognitive load so that their anxiety when using the product is lessened and their delight is heightened. I always have trouble with this delight is heightened, but what are you going to do? It's pretty accurate. Decreasing cognitive load, that you'll hopefully see that again, but that's a really important thing. So I hope Noga's going to mention it about the book, Don't Make Me Think. Hugely important thing. Again, taking a holistic approach, user experience is invisible, cultural, and multidisciplinary. Experiences beyond the interface, it's multi-channel. So you look at Apple, for example, they have the same tone of voice when your iPad is telling you something, and the person behind the Genius Bar will try and adopt the same sort of inflections here and there, or like it's the same reassuring voice, it's the same clean look to the sharp as it is the software itself. Just understanding interface design without connecting them back to business problems and to user-centered design does not make for a good user experience, nor make anyone simply pressing interface design or UX designer. Okay, yeah, so don't take it, don't just isolate it, is what it's saying there. Okay. Where does it come from? User-centered design, I just mentioned. 4 things that I believe make up UX. User-centered design, systems thinking, empathy, and advocacy. User-centered design is the first one. Particularly kind of came around to prominence in the 1970s. But it's about focusing each stage of the design process around the needs, wants, and capabilities of the end users. So Dieter Rams is a great proponent of this, as being one of the first people that really asked, so you have a radio, but how do people actually use the radio? What do they want to be able to do with the radio? And just give them that. So Like he's like, especially with that kind of like 70s look to stuff, like it's all very curvy and kind of space agey. Yeah, pioneering, that guy. Nice guy. UCD informs a product design by asking two fundamental questions: who's going to use it, and who are they? In that sense, so like when it's what are their experience levels, how do they think the product should work? It's really about them, that individual, and what are they using it for? The answers to these questions will inform product design and development. Just as a side note, this is not the same as UPD, where stakeholders are invited to contribute to the design of the product. Users are trusted to oversee and improve every aspect that might otherwise be left to a designer or a developer, but design by committee can be really, really freaking painful. Empathy. Have I missed one out? No, there is. Empathy. Another important thing. So that was really why we did that exercise first, the IDEO prototyping, because understanding who you're making something for is super, super important, this idea of empathy. It's not simply the process of thinking about the user and what they want. Try to imagine it more like thinking as the user, so you want to be able to embody that person and almost kind of like second guess their desires or the things that make them upset or anxious. This is the case at every stage of the production process. Thinking user first is key, partly and practically because the user can't always be there to do that for you. So, you know, we'll engage in user research ahead of the project, and we can do user testing when we have something to test. But we can't have users sit there and sit with us during every decision that we're going to make. So this is where tools like user personas might come in, if you've heard of those, which is just basically like, here you might have 6 for a project, and it might just be like, here are the averages of our 6 demographics that we've got. And so, you know, once a week, as we're making the product, let's run our 6 users through the thing and see how they would react to it. Oh, this person feels this way, so they didn't like this new feature or whatever. Obviously, real people are better than that. But. Systems thinking. Systems thinking is basically about being able to understand the big picture, to understand the small picture, the details, and understanding the details to know the bigger picture. Think about the user's experience as one which occurs within a system. Users behave in and interact with that system. It's an environment for their experience. Considering the purpose and place of that environment feeds directly into defining the small details of the. So, for example, like a developer uses the software by testing it, by adding features to it, to isolating bugs, to writing about it. So it's worth kind of like considering all of those people as well. Just, if not to make their lives better specifically, because obviously you're not working for the developers, you're working for the client, but to just get you in the mindset. So, because it is really like a mindset to get into. It's very easy to fall out of. I have projects that I work on that cross like many months, and not actually spending some time, like some solid minutes of like, who are the people that I'm working for here? What are they trying to achieve? When I come into the project, I end up making like really lazy decisions. So it's like, oh, we need a new screen to do this, this, and this. Okay, well, we've got the assets, bash, 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 here's the end result. That's never good enough, basically. And it stands out from the rest. It feels like a lazy decision. This is just a good way to help you kind of do that. And in practice, this might mean regular communication between all parties, internal and external, regular design and design reviews, design system reviews as well. So this would be like how we communicate our designs, or how we test the product, or whatever. It's important to care about yourself a little bit as well. Oh, it is right there. Jeez, sure. Okay. So, a lot of different things you can do in UX. It's a wishy-washy sounding subject, so there's a lot of wishy-washy sounding titles that people call themselves. Some may even argue that an experience cannot be defined, so the term UX designer is a misnomer. Things that I've covered here though, visual design, information architecture, that one's super fun if you ever want to get into that. Content strategy, just in general, interaction design, and people can make a living just doing this as well. So, like filling their Dribble account or whatever. Like when I click this button, it has this incredible little animation, and there it goes. Usability, very, very important, and user research and user testing. So you might find that there'll be a job listing for someone that is just an expert on this, or just an expert on that, or whatever, and that's all they do. But it's all part of the process. And what I'm encouraging you all to do is to see this as part of your process as well as developers, and not send it off to the design person and kind of like have a wall between you. Constant communication and just engaging with the designs and the idea that it matters to the project. It just makes for better products, and you've got to get behind that. Not so difference between being an artist and being a designer. An artist creates for themselves. They ask questions and they provoke thought. Not necessarily for themselves, but they create for creation's own sake. Whereas a designer is communication of specific messages, providing answers and purpose. Just in case Ellen was like, well, it's all arty-farty and you just draw and stuff. No, it isn't. User experience design is about problem solving. That's the whole writing the problem. What's your problem? What's your problem solution? Problem solving in the form of cognition. The designer does the thinking so that users don't have to. So I'm going to skip this fairly quickly, but this is just like a suggestion of like how to go through the whole process. So consulting, so to draw parallels between what I've written here and what you might do with a paying client and what we did just in that exercise earlier. First thing we did was like, so what do you know about this? How do you feel about that? Get to know what makes them tick and what causes them pain. Diagnosing the problem as a separate exercise, so then this is the kind of like next step that we went on to. I think it was like boxes 3 and 4. Pulling out the specific details that you want to work on, or the most important, or the most kind of like things that put people into action. Content. Everything is content. What's content? Everything is content. Conceptually, this is one of the hardest things to grasp. It doesn't lend itself to a particular way of solving problems. It's the philosophy of user experience. It's important to think of every input into a system as the content, because it forces you to push your understanding of the user experience beyond the interface. What content? Okay, well, let's move on. Plan, proposal, perform, appease. What does that mean in practice? So figure out what the business wants, start with the users. We had users, a user in this little workshop, the user and client were like one and the same. So we're going to cover like loads of this stuff in a bit more detail and through the exercises. Is she doing all right? I feel like she's coughing along up there.
Have that cough for about 2 months.
So user goals, user journeys, this will be part of your research topics and things tomorrow, so I don't want to like bog you down with this stuff now. But okay, I'm going to jump straight to conclusion because this is quite nice, and it's more gifts. So conclusion, users don't want your product or service, they don't really want an app. They want better versions of themselves. So User on board, Sam Hewlick is the guy behind that. Phenomenally good to follow on Twitter, very opinionated, very nice. And useronboard.com, he does these teardowns, where it's like, how does so-and-so onboard its users, how does Snapchat onboard its users, and then tears a new one for how they do it badly and stuff. Yeah, so you'll often see this in marketing terms, like, you know, in our society, you'll see, like, oh, get this thing and it makes happy people. Here's lots of pictures of happy people having a great time. Like the Uber Eats advert on YouTube really annoys me because it comes up loads, but it's just people eating and being happy. It's not like, oh, we deliver cheap food really quickly or whatever. It's just like, ha 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 ha, look how cool this is. We're also happy that we've got takeaway. But that's what they're doing, you know, they're selling this, not any of the boring bits in between.
It's not cheap.
I know, yeah. So before, and then after the app. Similarly, that's nuts. Guys, nipples. Blank space. Okay, and equally, in the real world, businesses don't want to hire a UX designer, they'd rather not. They just want a solution to their problems. So, for example, I'm going to be running a client workshop tomorrow, and it's not that the way that we sell it to the client is like, hey, we're going to get our designer in, and he's going to design all the things. It's about scoping, it's about understanding what they really want. Okay, so I'll leave you with this, and then we'll go for a nice early lunch or whatever. In practical terms, meeting with your client and understanding what they want so that you can make what they want. It means leaving all the technical language behind, being empathetic to the needs of them individually and to their business. And providing a bespoke proof of the value of UX. So that's just like a hurdle you might have to get over, is that you might have to demonstrate that this is valuable for these reasons. So yeah, that's kind of the basics of it. It's about users, it's about designing things. There you go. I'm going to switch back over to this, just to recap and finish. What is UX? Okay, we'll just blitz through this because it will be just recapping. Invisible, cultural, multidisciplinary, multi-channel. Sounds good, doesn't it? It's a feeling, an impression, an inclination that can be measured, but it is by definition impossible to accurately define. I mean, but obviously you have to, anyway. This is, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is like the UX design hierarchy of needs. So you don't get to things like aesthetically beautiful, innovative, until right at the top. You have to cover like, are we making the right thing to do this thing? Will it always do it? Can everybody do it? And that's where you go. You don't start with the pretty pictures and the high def wireframes and stuff like that. You start with pen and paper, basically, just like we did earlier. It means products and services that meet real needs, provide real benefits to real people in their real lives. It's a complicated thing. How does it help? In two ways: an ideology, a set of disciplines. Perhaps I should have done the presentation alongside them. Anyway, it's those four things, I believe, what we've already been through. Be a translator and advocate for the users. It's a job of problem solving. Okay, so problems to solve this week. What makes great UX? Decreasing the user's cognitive load so that their anxiety when using the product is lessened and their delight is heightened. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing this week. A version of Google Ventures Design Sprint. This is dwyl's logo. It's going to be shortened because it's only going to be 4 days. And it's going to be interspersed with some more fun things and little lightning talks or proper professional talks with some people coming in as well. And basically it's going to go like this. We're going to have, once you're in your teams and you've like all got your ideas, or you're all agreed that, whatever, you're in your teams, it's basically this divergent and convergent process that we're going to go through. So first it's like, oh, what are all the things that we need to understand? Okay, what are the relevant things here? Okay, what are all the ways that we could do this? Okay, but what's the best way that we can do this? Okay, and I don't know, really, that's not really so much of a, that should be more of a straight line, I guess, but maybe you make more than one prototype. You know, maybe this is like representative doing it several times, but you prototype, you validate the idea. Whether that means that it was a shit idea or not, that's what you find out. And then you can start again, or not. But this is the thing, by Friday you'll all have working prototypes of your project that have been tested by real people. And then you'll have 2 weeks to make it, you know, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it'll be a good portfolio piece, not just like, oh hey, I've got this idea, make this app for me. That's the idea anyway. Okay, cool, let's go for lunch. And we'll come back and